You're saying we're live. No, it's not. It's not.
What up, y'all?
There's something wrong.
That's
We're not
'cause
live.
you're looking at uploads. Appreciate y'all being here tonight. We're about ready to get started.
Oh, there it is. You're so smart.
Don't skip the ad.
Seriously?
Or definitely do. No,
Well,
definitely
I
do.
gotta wait for another 25 seconds.
Do you know how many fractions of a penny we make when you watch the whole commercial?
Talk again?
Hello. Hello, AGH.
Yeah, we're there.
Nasta.
Ah, he's there.
All right, you have to turn
I was
this
really
off.
worried you weren't gonna get there.
I'm
stop
hearing
telling me
myself
what to do.
I'm in stereo. It's bad enough I can hear myself once. All right, let's go with some Audible.
It's not evening where you are, or is it, AGH?
It's past evening. It's middle of the night.
It's like 2, 1, 2 a.m., midnight maybe?
Yeah, like half past. The reruns. Like I know what the TV situation is at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning here. It's not great, but there's some solid reruns. Just your mainstays. I want to know what we're competing against
It says,
across.
no, it's past 2 a.m.
Yeah, it's past
Good
2 a.m. So there's
Lord.
some terrible TV on that we're beating out in the AGH home. But we need it. Are we getting full market penetration? Because I bet you we got some serious sitcoms that we're
I
competing
want to know
against.
if Andrew knows this, because
What?
late night television for us
Mm-hmm.
was not necessarily through the night. There was an end to television. When we
Oh
were
yeah, television
kids,
shut off. Yeah, Star
There was
Spangled
no
Banner.
programming. The Star Spangled Banner would be the end,
Which
of,
obviously
of
they
TV
play in
for
Wales.
hours until it would pick back up at like 4 or 5 a.m.
Yep.
But one of the last shows I would always watch as a kid was the Benny Hill Show. Do you know who Benny Hill is? Andrew Griffin Humphreys.
And
think-
do they play the
what do you
Star
think?
Spangled Banner when the TV goes off
Well,
the air in
no,
Wales?
Of course they don't.
Just asking.
Do you bet? Do you think he knows who Benny Hill is?
No way. I mean,
What's up, James?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of people who live in this country
TV
watching.
used to shut down at 1 a.m.
Okay.
And does he know who Benny Hill is?
Also, do they play the Star Spangled Banner? Let's get started here with a little Redskins talk. Here we go. I'm used to pushing play on some music.
James Rainey remembers Benny Hill. Benny Hill, of
He doesn't
course.
remember Benny
He was
Hill.
British.
He saw Benny Hill.
Gotta love some Benny Hill. Robert Cohen. I mean, they all remember Benny Hill. You could also, one of the main reasons to watch it
Yeah.
was every once in a while, the two of the women in the line that would chase Benny Hill at the end were topless. So it was
England! England!
that was really the only reason I ever really watched it.
I'm just
to
saying,
the end.
there's some things that that we did not rebel against. Like when we were fighting the war against England, I guarantee you that was not one of the things where we were like, "This must end immediately." It wasn't that. And in fact, I think we've really assimilated that into our culture here in America as well. Let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us on another Tuesday night on Monday in the basement. Podcast 2 is the First Amendment Sports. I'm Ken Marangolo. He's Tim Strachan.
You know, this actually is working out for me in a great
that's
personal
good.
way.
Let's talk about
It's
that.
an anniversary of sorts for me, something I love to celebrate, and I'm very appreciative that you've opened your home on an anniversary for myself
Yet another one.
on a Monday night instead of a Tuesday.
And it's like your wedding anniversary.
Correct.
For once.
I've spent all my anniversaries in this basement. If I have an anniversary,
Leslie.
it's going to be in this basement. Leslie didn't have anything to do with this.
No,
one, but
I know.
It's a pleasure.
I'll cheers to you.
Actually, I would like to raise a glass to all of our listeners.
Yeah,
Why not?
absolutely.
all the
Appreciate
guys-
you guys.
Live and those listening recording.
We are off to an amazing training camp on the Audible presents Offseason on the Brink. Offseason on the Brink is at kind of almost its close. We kind of call it quits officially, I think, somewhere towards the Labor Day-ish. Still straight off-season, only off-season talk. And was happy to not spend a 6-pack on Trent Williams this week. Just because
I don't think you even mentioned his name.
I did.
You
because
mentioned him by name?
yeah,
I think you did.
Because of our offensive line is like a pane of glass in terms of how fragile it is right now. The lack of an extension for Sheriff to me is weighing me down. I'm worried about that. That's a contract that I don't want to mess around with. I would do a lot of things to make that happen.
I haven't seen a lot talked about it, written about it, speculated about it, which I actually take right now as a good thing.
If I'm Brandon
Hopefully
Sheriff,
right now it's about football.
if he's
right now.
healthy, he resets the market. When he becomes a free agent at guard, for whatever that is, it's a lot of money. It's being reset. Everything's being reset on a constant basis. So, but I would love to guarantee him some money, get him in the fold. Without Trent on the left side, and without, knowing what's going to happen at left guard, because right now Eric Flowers is left guard. I don't know. He's huge. He's big.
People are still cringing at that.
It's because he's played so poorly when he's been on the field. I get it was at a different position, and I get that maybe this is the thing that works for him as an athlete in this league, but there's not many times elsewhere on the field where a guy fails terribly at one position, and you're like, oh, don't worry, we're going to try him at a different position.
That doesn't always work out.
No,
You're right.
it's like it never works out.
It never's a long time. It does.
I mean,
it does.
Like when Slash became one from quarterback to wide receiver, like that kind of thing.
No. They take tight ends. They make them tackles, or they make them other linemen. Sometimes you got to it happens.
What was Mark Mosley before he was a kicker? It was like just a pimp. Just stab people in the face
with
on
his
Saturday
fro
nights.
and his chains and his.
So he did it successfully. So if Eric Flowers has a little bit of guidance in that regard, so I'm worried about our offensive line. But even setting that aside, I thought it would be a good time to reinvoke the notion that one of the strengths and positives of the Washington Redskins as a football team, to me, is still Jay Gruden, for better or worse.
I've been firmly in this camp for a while. Jay Gruden's not lighting the world on fire. We get that. That's okay. He's not dumping on it either. I mean, I agree with you. He is not the issue here. He is a steady force right now, which frankly hasn't been around this organization for very long. There's not been a whole lot of steady other than steady mediocrity or worse for a long, long time. So I like Jay. I've always liked Jay. He's nowhere near what we have as a pedestal in terms of coaching and Joe Gibbs.
That's right.
But I like his demeanor. I like how he is. I know a lot of people have a real problem with his in-game coaching, some of his time clock management decisions.
We're working on it.
But I do like Jay. I don't think he is the problem, and I have never been one to be calling for his head. And this is his year. This is his year to either shit or get off the pot in terms of making
I don't disagree.
real coaching moves. He is coaching.
We've said that a couple times already.
He is coaching for his head coaching career. I think if he doesn't make it work this year, and if he gets fired during or after this year, I don't think he becomes a head coach again. I think he becomes a coordinator. I just don't know if anybody gives him a shot. I think he really is coaching for that. And that doesn't mean he has to get X amount of wins or else he's gone. He has to show his coaching chops. Whatever the record may be at the end, whether they make the playoffs or not, he's got to show his coaching chops. And he's got a lot of question marks on this team that we've been talking about, pointing out for a few weeks now in terms of wide receivers on offense, the line issue that he's got to deal with right now,
and his
especially on the left side.
He's got to get better.
But also the defense and the middle of that defense. He's got young guys that he's got to get coached up with his coaching staff. So there's plenty of room for him to be a boom or bust as a head coach this year.
He can be better.
I really think so.
Of course he can be better. But I think that it's funny to hear people be over the top against Jay Gruden because we know what a disaster looks like. I mean, we've had that guy. We had Spurrier. We had Zorn. We had Schottenheimer for a year, and he wasn't even the problem, and it didn't work. So like we know what coaching looks like when it is a shitstorm, and Jay Gruden hasn't been that. I mean, that's just for starters. Like that he hasn't been a first page in the style section, disaster. We know that. We know that he's not that. So, and head coaches in the NFL, they age differently, obviously, but not like wine. I think it's more like a whiskey. You don't know what flavor you're going to release by leaving it in the barrel one extra year here and there. And I think it's fair to say that Jay Gruden has got some seasoning. He's been in the barrel for a while now. And we don't yet know that when we watch him coach this year that he won't have learned lessons. He's taken some pretty hard lessons. What he's learned from them remains to be seen. But when you stick with a head coach for a long enough period of time, in the league, I think we've seen that lead to if not Super Bowl championships, a very professional, football team on the field on Sundays. I think people are hanging things on him that have more to do with the injuries than do with his coaching abilities.
The injuries have been a problem, and that's not a head coach's fault. I think he has done admirable, given the fact that he had to deal with a lot of injuries, getting guys to step up, make the next play. None of these teams have completely fallen apart when injuries have happened, right? The season hasn't gone to complete shit. They have been in the mix.
That. Mark Sanchez.
They've been in the mix
falling apart
for possibly making making it to the playoffs in the last few weeks of the season. We've all been holding on to that. It hasn't gone a 3-13.
It's been a while.
Drop off. It has been.
But
a
when
while.
your starting quarterback rolls in with a dog that fits in his purse and a scarf wrapped around his head 5 times, like Mark Sanchez.
If you were just to fire Jay today, who would you bring in that would definitely make this team better this year in terms of a 1, 2, maybe even 3 wins? Who? Do you really think that guy actually exists?
Well, that guy's not taking the job. That's the key.
That's not the question.
Well, of course.
The question is he really
Joe Jackson Gibbs? I'm calling Joe Gibbs tomorrow.
I'll
hire Joe Gibbs.
Is he really the problem?
No,
is my
of course
point.
Not. No.
You could bring Bill Belichick in here tomorrow with the same exact people on the roster, and I don't know if he actually gets you 2 or 3 more wins. No, I don't. You have what you have, right? You have
what
you have.
We have Jay, and I think Jay is it's not even as good as we can get right now. I think he is actually doing good work. There's a lot of young players on this team that aren't being ruined by a guy like Spurrier or a guy like Zorn. Even though I liked Zorn, a regime like the one Zorn ran. We're not being ruined, and I think that's. Think about the way we're measuring our coaches. Like we're talking about all the terrible things that aren't happening. Well, that's great. A lot of terrible things aren't happening under Jay Gruden, but I also think that when he's been able to get his
terrible things have been happening to this organization for 20 plus years.
Yeah. So,
except for the terrible things haven't been happening in the last 5 that he's been in charge.
What would be really interesting to me...
Is that fair to say?
What?
There have been no terrible things from the head coach's spot in the last 5 years.
For Jay Gruden?
Terrible. No terrible things, in my opinion. There's a lot of people out there that don't like him, want him gone. But I don't see where the terrible is.
No, there's no terrible. And I think... so he's got 2 years left on this deal. And with Dwayne Haskins at quarterback, a first-round quarterback, to me, the Jay Gruden's future and Dwayne Haskins' future are officially aligned. If Dwayne Haskins is a player, and we don't know whether he is or not, but if he is, Jay Gruden could easily be our coach here for another 5 years. I mean, just expect if you think Dwayne Haskins can play, then Gruden's not going anywhere because a quarterback and an offensive-minded head coach. The only person that you could possibly even think about taking Jay Gruden's spot would be Kevin O'Connor. I think the hot shot, offensive coach.
Speculation he could be.
But again, that doesn't hurt the team as much if you're staying in house, and it would also be a feather in Jay Gruden's cap because it's his guy, and he's put other guys out there. So I think the Gruden tree, the Gruden coaching thing going on right now for me is just fine, and I just once again
I don't think his coaching career should be hanging on whether Dwayne Haskins is successful this year or not. I don't even think I don't think he's starting game 1.
Yeah, but you think he's coming back next year? You think Gruden's coming back for one more year after this,
I would like to hope so.
and then he'll be on a lame duck.
I would like to hope so.
If that's
the
true, then
worst
it's all
case
about
scenario
Haskins.
is Dan telling Jay, "You start Haskins day one, and your ass is on the line." That would be atrocious.
Yes, it would.
Now,
I don't think that's what's happening.
Now, it's okay if Dan has told him already. It's signaled to him, "You're coaching for your ass. Figure it out." And Dwayne doesn't start the first maybe quarter of the season, whatever it may be. But when he's ready and he goes, and Jay shows that that's the right decision, that's showing your coaching chops, and that's showing he is where he's supposed to be.
I think
if all that works out, fantastic.
Dan is making Jay Gruden open tabs at FedEx for $11 beers because Snyder's not paying that. So might as well stick it to your head coach. I think that at quarterback this year will be fine a variety of ways, but we talked a lot about that. I want to talk about who they're throwing the ball to. And I'm looking for reasons to be optimistic, and I did put injuries on the side, which seems ludicrous, but you kind of almost have to have like an actual real football discussion about the Redskins offense. You have to suspend imagination. I know the group of people who watches our show. I know you guys watch some crazy, what on TV, as do I. We can all suspend our imagination and our beliefs for just a moment and think that injury isn't an issue. Paul Richardson, if he's healthy, he's a difference maker. Even more so than with Alex Smith, the quarterback. Because I think Alex Smith, the quarterback, when he came in, we knew what his accuracy was with the deep ball. It was the best in the league. But he doesn't throw the deep ball very often, if ever. And he didn't do that in Kansas City, and he didn't do that here. I know for a fact Colt McCoy is going to uncork him, and I know Case Keenum is going to uncork him, partly because they're playing for a chance to stay in the league. But they get it. The offense is built on taking chances.
We all know Haskins has that ability.
And Haskins has the ability, and I'm sure he'll be happy to throw it down the field.
Oh, he has the mentality too.
But Colt and Case are smart enough to know what plays those are that you gamble on, and they're just going to let it go. Kirk Cousins never let it go. He refused.
One of the coolest things I heard a NFL quarterback say to another quarterback who was up and coming, it was Peyton Manning talking to Scott McBride, former Maryland quarterback, who had a chance to be in a camp. He was at the time he was with the Packers in camp, and Peyton asked him. He says, "How's it going? What are you doing?" And all of a sudden, Peyton just goes, "Hey, listen, man. When you got four, going deep, and you got two, you got a four deep, or you got a two safety look. Sometimes you just got to let it go, man, because you got to remember they're pros too. They got to make their living.
That's right.
That was one of the coolest things, and it was just off the head, just a knee jerk kind of just thing he just offered him, and it made so much sense. But I think you're right. I think Colt and Keenum are both guys that play more to that philosophy than certainly Alex or even Kirk did at times.
Well, because Kirk had that contract coming up, and I do believe that factored in. Colt, I think Jay's confidence in Colt stems from Jay's belief that Colt understands exactly what Jay wants. Now, a professional backup quarterback is always going to make his head coach feel that way. If he's doing his job right, he's going to have that comfort. So then when he comes off the bench in a game in a bad spot, the coach knows I can still run plays. This guy still knows what I want to do. He's been there and he's practiced with us the whole time. I don't know how long Colt can last, but when he's playing, I know that he is going to put the ball downfield. And with Paul Richardson, you can do that, and I think he's shown that he can do that. But more so, I think that the player coming back, who is to me going to get the most targets and potentially the most touches, especially in the first month of the season, is Trey Quinn. The slot,
I'm on board
especially if Case is the quarterback, because he had Stephon Diggs running that offense. Yeah. But even if Colt is in this day and age, the slot guy, if he's agile and athletic, he runs free. He finds the space, and the quarterback gets the ball to him.
I tell you what, I love what I'm hearing about Cam Sims, McLaurin, and Harmon in camp right now, and Doxson is not lighting anything on fire.
Nope.
These days. And if those three, and again, I think Cam Sims could be a breakout guy simply because he was doing extremely well until he got hurt last year. I thought
Yep.
They were really happy with him. I think he's a guy who could be a big surprise. He could be a huge, huge, huge surprise for this football team. I also think the same with Trey Quinn. If he can stay healthy, just knowing the type of route runner he is and the production he had in college, despite where he came from or who was throwing to him, I think if those guys really can step up and be huge surprises for this team, that changes the dynamic of this offense completely.
Well, having depth at your 3, 4, 5, and 6, or 5, 6, and 7 spots at wide receiver or even at corner, but in this case, wide receiver, is such a big deal because in the NFL, there's touches to go around a lot. An NFL team has to have 4 or 5 guys that know the offense that can play because at any given time, someone's going to be in there. There's going to be 4 wide receivers, 5 wide receivers. Most offenses run with on average of 3.5, 4 wide receivers.
We still have Reed and we still have Vernon Davis.
Well, no, I'm just saying from a wide receiver standpoint of depth in the league, it strikes me as a golden age for wide receivers because there's a specific kind of guy who's doing well in that spot. And yeah, you have your superstars, the Julio Jones, the Antonio Browns, the DeAndre Hopkins. We can name them all. But on those teams, the Calvin Ridleys of the world, the number 2s and the number 3s. I mean, if those guys, they don't have to be Julio Jones, but if those guys are just good, their numbers are going to be great. And the Washington Redskins have the opportunity to have good players at those positions.
There needs to be an alpha male of this group though that needs to step up and say, I'm your guy when you need it. Pierre Garçon was that guy. He was the last guy we had in a Redskins uniform.
McLaurin could be that guy.
He's the last guy we had in a Redskins uniform that played that role. We don't have that guy right now. We may have
on
him.
Offense.
We don't know who he is.
Because Jonathan Allen
in the wide receiving core for sure.
In the wide receiving core for sure. I think that with Trey Quinn and Paul Richardson, I think they're gonna try out Josh Jackson to see what he's got, and they're gonna ask him to run routes and make some catches this year. But at some point in time, I absolutely expect to see Terry McLaurin putting down serious time on one of the outside wide receiver spots and drawing the ball. And as long as you do have Reed and Chris Thompson and Trey Quinn and Paul Richardson doing what they're supposed to be doing, I don't know that a lot of teams are going to be able to justify double teaming Terry McLaurin. And he's a dog in a one-on-one fight.
Well, you need an alpha male to step up for some other team to actually respect enough to double team. That's what we need. That's why you need that alpha male, that prima donna of a wide receiver.
Well, Jordan Reed's getting the double.
That.
That's what Jordan Reed's getting that.
When he's healthy, and if he starts to put together a season like that, he will start to
when he's healthy, he's
see
the
more
focus.
Than one set of eyes. Yes, and that will help out the offense as well. But there still needs to be a guy on the outside that fills that role.
We talked about the offensive line. We talked a little bit about I'll ask the folks on the show tonight. I threw out Montez Sweat, but if an impact player that just joined the team via draft or free agency that's going to make the biggest impact on our season, I would look to see what they say.
Two guys talking on the board right now. First of all, there's always disdain for a certain person in the front office every night. We don't always have to kick that dead horse, but these guys love to kick it.
Redskins should fire Bruce Allen immediately.
Yes. But the other is that these guys are agreeing right now that are listening to us live, and they're calling them the young guns, that these guys are going to get their chance. That's what everybody's hearing, everybody's thinking. I'm excited for that, man. I think there is going to be someone who steps it up. I really do. Whether it's Trey or it's McLaurin or one of the other young guys, somebody's stepping up this year. I feel it.
So Trey's going to be on the field in a variety of combinations of the rest of them. Josh Jackson, to me, could easily get edged out by McLaurin as long as Paul Richardson is healthy. And then if you start throwing in, routes for Cam Sims, to me, you're cutting back on Doxson's time. So
that's fine with me.
I think that the beauty of the wide receiver. I think the wide receiver core is the perfect way to explain the perfect scenario. I think that Jay Gruden finds himself in. The Washington Redskins are married to nobody from a player perspective. They really aren't. I mean, we have a first-round quarterback, and I at least at this point in time, we're not all talking like for sure we're going to throw the whole season away by making him our starter for no good reason. When we draft players in the first round or sign big-name free agents, the Washington Redskins have a tendency to all of a sudden become a team built around whoever that person or player is. That's why Cam Sims has such a good chance to make this team, and some of these guys have a chance to gain playing time.
Cam Sims is going to be a huge contributor, if not a starter for this team.
Yeah, that's why Jimmy Moreland potentially has a chance to show that he belongs in the league over the summer, or for that matter, one of these, Wes Martin or Ross Pierschbacher, if they decide to take over the left guard spot. More
question marks that again could be huge surprises for this team.
Mm-hmm.
This is again where Jay, going back to your six-pack, Jay needs to show that he is a coach worth keeping. If he can make these question marks actually come to fruition this season, whether it be at the wide receiver position, at the left guard or left half of the line, Callahan as well, who I think is more than capable of coaching up anybody, except for maybe Eric Flowers. But and then if you're getting into the defensive side of the ball too, the question mark of what kind of a role and how big of a role is Montez Sweat going to play, and if he's capable of doing what everybody's saying he can do, how is that going to help out the young linebacking crew, right?
Yeah.
And how is all that going to work for the back end? So all of these things I think are setting up for Jay to have what we all know is going to either be a make or break season probably for him in terms of being head coach of the Washington Redskins going forward.
HEH has Monte Nicholson. Robert Cohen has Landon Collins. All right. And Montez. I just think if Montez is as talented as we think that he is, and he can make a difference at that spot, which is pass rusher, you just if you have it, you have it. If you don't, you don't. If we have it, we're gonna be really good. If we don't, if a 6'6" guy with a 7-foot wingspan who runs like the wind and is crazy strong and fast starts getting to the quarterback on a regular basis, everybody looks better.
Now, some people are comparing him to a Julius Peppers type of. He has the size, speed, like intangibles, all the tools it takes. No one's saying he is Julius Peppers because Julius Peppers actually did that and then made it work on the field. He's got to make it work on the field before he truly gets any sort of, comparison like that. But he has those tools. And if he has those tools and he can wreak any kind of havoc with the other guys that we have on the line and some of the athleticism we have on the back end, this could be a fun unit to watch.
James has Dunbar, who, if he's healthy, that would be awesome. Again, another size guy, not making a ton of money, who plays one of the most important positions on the field. So, I don't know. Did anyone miss? So let's just get off football for a second. And since we have a few people watching, a few faithfuls watching, is anyone suffering from Game of Thrones withdrawal heavily? And the reason why I ask is because I'm not. I was thinking about it the other day. I loved it.
Not really.
And I'm upset with myself at how
it was good while it lasted. I'm on to the next thing.
So
it'll hold its place in history.
So would you do this though? If you spend the next year not even thinking about it, and then all of a sudden just binge out on 7 seasons?
Up.
No. I'm saying, do you purposely avoid it?
Oh no,
and then crush it.
It'll be a long time before I go back and re-binge.
And so I'm with you. I don't want to watch it at all until I do that. But what's the appropriate amount of time to wait until re-binging Game of Thrones? Robert Cohen does miss Game of Thrones. Watchmen. So, hey, James, has Watchmen started yet? Because I saw the commercial for Watchmen for HBO, and I definitely want to watch it. And Westworld doesn't start until 2020 because TV shows aren't even on anymore. You're like, hey, I got this awesome TV show. I'm gonna make some episodes, and then wait 5 years. I'm like, are you what the hell? Westworld's coming up. All right, so Watchmen's coming up at the end of the month.
If the over-under is 5, I'm definitely over.
Over 5 years?
Yeah.
I think the longer you can hold out, the better the payoff is. That's a lesson to you young kids out there, James. save it till the end. But if you could, but I do think like it'll make it that much better for when we do re-binge on it. And I'm waiting for a Sopranos binge and a Stranger Things binge. Both are in my immediate future. We'll see. We'll see about that. Any other shows that I mean?
I just binged watched the first season of The Boys on Amazon Prime. Loved it. Very, very dark comedy. Superheroes like you've never seen before. It's Deadpool on steroids, is what it is. I enjoyed it. Did it in 3 days.
AGH told me this is West Wing. Dude, wasn't that show in like 25
This
years?
is like 2019. You know that, right?
Did it just come to Wales? I wanted. Is it all new? Like, are you waiting for the next episode? But actually, some of the actors on that show, I didn't watch West Wing. I wasn't a West Wing guy, and it was huge. I don't know about anything about Roswell, Miami Vice. If you're watching Miami Vice,
80s Miami Vice.
it can only be the. Don't answer that, Robert. Because if it's not 80s Miami Vice, I don't even want to know. If you're binge watching the new
It better
one,
be the 80s Miami Vice.
the Super 70s sports guy had a picture of Don Johnson in his jacket on like and it's like, am I supposed to believe this guy isn't totally cooked up right now?
It was the 80s.
I know. And you know what? I think that look's gonna come back at some point. I really do. Because Don Johnson looked great in that white suit jacket. He just did.
Then you just got to get creepy. You just can't go a show without getting creepy.
Dude, Miami Vice fashion was awesome, but I don't own a yacht or a convertible.
Just sounds like you've thought about that way too much than in passing.
And I don't have the hair. That's why I'm wearing a hat. Benjamin could pull it off. I don't think I could pull it off. All right. I don't want to get you out on... we're not going to do any music questions tonight like we did last week. We refused.
Yeah, it was a little embarrassing last week. Not a music guy. I don't know names of stuff.
All right. Names of stuff. I mean, that's...
I don't.
We know. So we're on...
Ask me to hum a tune, and I'll hum you a tune, and I wouldn't be able to tell
Don't
you
ask him to hum any
who
tunes.
sings it,
Please.
what band it was from. Nothing.
Yes, Robert. They remade Miami Vice. I mean, we shall never speak of it again. Oh God! But now I want to remember who. It was actually a couple of big name actors. I've repressed the memory. But it was like Mario Lopez or.
For the new one?
Yeah.
I have no clue, nor do I
don't know.
care.
They tried to change it up on us. You know, I don't know. Maybe it was a woman. Who knows? I don't even know.
No, you're thinking of the new Bond, who's going to be the 007.
It's gonna be a chick.
He's going to be yes. They prefer being called women, but
Dude, you don't know. You don't speak for 007.
yeah, okay.
Don't even presume.
She will not be Bond, though.
No, she won't.
Bond is still in the movie, apparently.
James
but he's
Bond.
no longer 007. The woman is. I don't know what role James Bond is actually going to play.
Missionary mostly, but I would say probably that Idris Elba, is he going to be in this one?
I do not know that much.
Well, I think we've covered a lot. Movies, shows. We're missing on Kevin. Anyone got any messages for Kevin before we?
Kevin's live
go?
on
What?
on Talk tonight.
I haven't seen him.
Oh, yeah, he's in there.
We're all like we're getting our game on now that I got it on the screen.
Talking produce and stuff. I don't know.
Oh, that's from the WCAC Spectacular. That's right. All right, we're gonna come back next week with some more Redskins banter.
Because next week we'll actually have
a game,
real football,
a game, and
to discuss. And I know Rick. Thank God he's not here to actually talk tonight because he would be like poo-pooing the crap out of it because it's not real football. But this is it's football. We get to see guys in uniforms out there playing the game. And we'll have that to at least talk about. I know there's going to be something.
It's going to be on live at the Knights of Columbus.
Certain guys that
I bet
we're going to want to talk about, whether it's good or bad. We're going to definitely want to talk about what they did and what they didn't do.
I'm going to want to talk about Baker
I'm looking forward
Mayfield.
to that.
Shotgunning beer on the sidelines.
Okay, that was all I needed for me to finally just completely buy in to the Baker Mayfield.
I've been selling Baker Mayfield for
mania.
2 years on
Yeah,
in this basement,
yeah.
and no one's been buying.
I think he's an absolute.
No one's been
I
buying.
think he's an absolute animal.
He's an animal.
He's a different breed.
I mean, for it to come through like that, the
Yeah.
guy takes a bite out of the bottom of a can of beer and shotguns and with a crazy mustache going, and then he gets all fired up wearing the jersey of a guy who then hits a home run. It's amazing. Baker Mayfield is by far my favorite football player in the NFL outside of
like Baker
Redskins
Mayfield
land.
to Cleveland to the Cleveland Browns is equivalent to like what Ricka was to the Catholic Cardinals back in the day.
And he lit it up.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I made the comparison.
So I hate to talk my book here, fantasy football wise, but people are just sleeping on the Browns. If you're at a casino anywhere near a sports book, go and get all the Browns lines that you can and give it serious thought. I know my man Skins NJ knows what I'm talking about. The defense is loaded with talent, as many teams would be when they have a first-round draft pick every year a top of the first-round draft pick every year for 15 years like the Browns have. They've picked well. They've picked better than a whole lot of other teams, first of all. They've gotten guys to come because guys are attracted to that. They're the talent level.
It'll be fun to watch.
Myles Garrett is a stud, and I think he's going to be unleashed a little bit this year. Get ready to see him play at a high level. Greedy Williams on the outside is a cornerback, a rookie who I think is going to make a difference. Denzel Ward is a classy corner on the other side. Their wide receiving core. I love their running backs alone. Now I know Duke Johnson had a bunch of things to say and isn't getting along with everybody. There's not been many running backs I've respected more in the last 3 years than Duke Johnson. If you see him live, I'm telling you.
He was ridiculous in college. He has not been ridiculous in the pros.
He has. Now, he hasn't been asked to be the guy, really at all. But when he's given a chance on the field, and you know who knows that? Because you know who got in Baker's face when Baker got into it with Duke was the rest of the team. They're like, you can't do that to Duke. You can't call him out like that because he is a stud on Sundays. He's an amazing receiver, one of the best receivers I've ever seen out of the running back. So Nick Chubb, I say, need I say more?
No, stop there.
I like
Don't
Baker Mayfield.
Again. Don't double up on creepiness.
I like the Cleveland Browns coming to town. AGH is already featuring the Browns in 2020 Super Bowl, which technically, James, David Njoku, I believe, is who you're talking about, and he is a stud. With Baker, he's a stud. The other quarterbacks wouldn't throw the ball. I don't understand why. A tight end from, I believe, Miami, you're pretty much always supposed to throw that guy the ball, my understanding. Tight ends out of Miami, you throw to. All right. Shout out to Tin Cup Whiskey for Robert Cohen. I actually do enjoy Tin Cup Whiskey. It's not my favorite American bourbon, but it's up there. And I like the fact that you get a little tin cup shot glass. My wife is like, "You paid how much?
Extras are great
for this tin cup shot glass." I'm like, "Don't worry about that. Don't worry." She's like, "How many?" Then she starts counting the tin cup shot glasses. Oh yeah, tip Robert Cohen on the tin cup shot glasses. Don't put them all in one place. That's just a bad situation. You got to split them up around the house. Yeah. And she's like, "Oh," and then I just moved them here. And you're just like always moving them around the house. Never collect them in one spot. It's a bad idea. All right.
Somebody take a picture of the amassed tin cups, and whoever has the most wins a prize.
I'll stand behind that.
Yep. Okay.
The winner prize for not deviating up the evidence properly is what they'll win the prize for. Woodford Reserve Oak Cask.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, but that's not really a Tuesday night bourbon.
I brought it down here, and you all spit it out.
Not Woodford Reserve.
I think you did.
You brought Wild Turkey.
No.
Russell's Reserve. That was Russell's Reserve.
Was it Russell's?
Yes.
No.
You bought some old Granddad.
No, because I wanted at a really fancy. I brought it down.
Oh, you know what? It was a
small.
It was
bottle.
rye, wasn't it? Rye.
It was a small bottle.
All right.
I've had it down here. I drank it myself over.
I might have guzzled it.
2 weeks.
Might have taken it
I
straight
don't
to my
think you
face.
guys liked it. It was a little.
The old man flavor.
You guys didn't have enough hair on your chest for it yet.
Well, I fixed that problem. Over the years. Until next Tuesday night, he'll still be Benjamin.
I'll still be Tim.
Tim.
Looking forward to that too.
I'm looking forward to that as well.
Because I don't want to be anything
We'll
else.
see what anniversary you're celebrating next week.
I'm going to take next week off on anniversaries.
All right. No. That's good.
26 years.
Might be a Tuesday anniversary.
26 years in the chair. 26 years in the chair. It's been
You're doing great, man.
It's been a wonderful 26 years as well. Appreciate it. It's like a second birthday for me. It's awesome.
No, that's what we're here for.
I'm celebrating.
Oh, that's why we changed it to tonight. And this is this non-Tuesday Tuesday. All right, appreciate all your time. We'll be back next Tuesday with the scarlet and gray faced man that usually sits to my left. I'm Ken Marangola, and this was the Audible.
HTTR.
We're still live. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
That was fun, guys. Appreciate it. I think I'm going to start calling you the boys.
Young Guns.
Or the Young Guns. Actually, that'll be another question to you guys. You want to be called, you want to be referred to, this group here, as the boys or the Young Guns? We'll throw it to them. Tell us next week.
No spoiler alerts.